Being human. At times, it's wonderful. At others, it sucks. I think this is something all of us can agree on. But why? What does it all mean? In a sense, the answer lies within that very question. As we know it, humans are the only creatures who would pose such an existential inquiry. Our ability to question and wonder is innately human and sets us apart from other animals. However, I don't want to simply focus on what makes us human as opposed to just another animal. That's a question with plenty of scientific reasoning and answers as far as I'm aware. So, what does it mean to be human? One philosopher I'd really like to focus on is the famous or infamous, depending on your perspective, Friedrich Nietzsche. In my opinion, he is one of the most misunderstood philosophers of the 19th century, often viewed as nothing more than a cynical nihilist. Though his belief system is nihilistic in several ways, I don't view him to be this complete pessimist who doesn't believe life is worth living. In fact, looking at arguably his most notable work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, I personally find a lot of hope, a sense of optimistic nihilism, if you will. As Zarathustra professes to the people, man is something that shall be overcome. Man is a rope tied between beast and overman, a rope over an abyss. What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not an end. This concept of the overman, often mistranslated and misinterpreted as a superman, is in fact not the emotionless, free of all pain and suffering man some have accused Nietzsche of idolizing. Nietzsche's idea of the ideal human is just us, as we are, but with a change of perspective. Let me explain. Being human is greatly about suffering, but overcoming that suffering, not ignoring it or erasing it from existence, because without it, we would no longer be human.
Decides that all those years he suffered, those were the best years of his life, because they made him who he was. All the years he was happy, total waste. Didn't learn a thing. So, if you sleep until you're 18, think of the suffering you're gonna miss. I mean, high school, those are your prime suffering years. They don't get better suffering than that.
The overman is just a human who has self-actualized, suffered, and understood suffering and gained perspective from it. Our individual suffering makes us aware and empathetic to others' suffering. As a result, we are able to connect with one another, which to me is one of the most essential aspects of humanity. Connection. We are human because of other humans. That's what a lot of life is. It's our relationship, whether they be of love or disdain. Another philosopher I believe portrays the human experience quite accurately is French-Algerian philosopher Albert Camus. In his iconic essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus uses the Greek myth of Sisyphus as a metaphor for life of humankind. This interpretation of what it is to be alive, specifically as a human, is not dissimilar to what I interpreted of Nietzsche's writing. Suffering is a huge part of our lives, but to be human is to embrace that suffering, embrace the absurd, and keep going. As Camus says, the struggle itself towards the height is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. To conclude this video, I wanted to add an anecdote of my own. Recently, I visited the Philadelphia Museum of Art, which I have been to many times before. This time, however, I stayed stationary for an unusual amount of time, sitting across the Annunciation by Francisco de Zurbarán for at least half an hour. I'm a huge fan of art and art history, but funny enough, this was never a painting I ever really regarded. Yet, for some reason, it was the one that in a museum full of art I had trouble stepping away from. As I remained fixated on the painting, I became more and more entranced, and started to feel like I was talking to the painter. Each brushstroke said something. This man I had no prior connection to made this 373 years ago, yet there I sat, connecting to him through his art. This encounter really made me reflect and come to a conclusion that one of the most human things ever is art. Not only is it something generally uniquely human, but it also allows for human connection on such great levels, as previously displayed. We can convey so much of humanity through art, and the existence of art itself must prove something about us.